Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Welcome to the Black Belt Leadership Podcast, where each week I'm giving you tips, tools, insights, and resources to help you become a better version of who you are and what you do as you discover, develop, and deploy your own Black Belt leader within. Hey, this week I want to talk about the 6 P's of effective leadership. There's been a lot written, said, and really shared about leadership over the years. And history's full of examples of good leadership, poor leadership, great leadership, and bad leadership. But if there was a quintessential phrase that defines leadership, I think leaning into one of the favorite quotes from my friend and mentor, Dr. John Maxwell, sums it up well. Dr. John says this: everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, think about that statement for a moment and what it actually says. Everything, every single thing rises and falls on leadership. Good, effective leadership not only elevates the leader, it elevates those that he or she is leading. This allows everyone to rise together. But poor leadership not only ends in failure for the leader, but it also ends for those they are leading. They fail together. Now, in my book, Black Belt Leadership 101, I highlight the 10 essential character qualities of becoming a black belt leader in life. Now, these 10 character qualities, when you implement them and you begin to live them out daily in your life, these 10 leadership qualities, these principles provide the foundation for anyone to effectively lead themselves well, make good choices, and teach other people to do the same. That is effective leadership. Now, my son Joshua presented me with an amazing book, and maybe I've talked about it on the podcast before, maybe not, but I'll mention it. The book is called Masters of Command. It's written by Barry Strauss. It's available on Amazon. It's an incredible book. This book, Masters of Command, highlights the leadership of Alexander the Great, Hannibal of Carthage, and Julius Caesar of Rome. Now, if you know anything about history, and I am a history buff, each one of these men was a master of war. They were continually making life and death decisions for the men that they led into battle. But not only were they battle tacticians, each and every one of these incredible warrior leaders also had to learn how to effectively lead as a statesman. They had to learn how to use their leadership effectively to influence and persuade other people. Now, Masters of Command is a fascinating historical read. And if you're a fan of history or you're a war buff, these are movies of military conquest and strategies and tactics you're going to want to read because you're going to learn some very interesting things. But the leadership lessons that Barry Strauss shares in this book are also amazing. So not only is this book a good historical read, it shares some amazing insights into the rise of these individuals as leaders. You see the pinnacle of their success as a leader, and then you see the leadership failures that lead to the fall of each and every one of these amazing warrior leaders. And there's some incredible insights and lessons that we can glean from each chapter in their lives. You're going to see examples of effective leadership and ineffective leadership, and you get to read and see chronicled in history how effective and ineffective leadership actually played out and the outcomes it created. Let me give you an example. Hannibal did the unthinkable. He was on a quest to surprise his Roman adversaries, and he was looking for some way to gain a tactical advantage. He had a large group of 30,000 soldiers, 15,000 horses, and 37 war elephants. Now, had he tried to march up the roads into Rome, he would have met a number of Roman garrisons and a number of allied garrisons, and he would have had conflict before he ever got to the Roman Republic. Hannibal had an idea. He decided to take his 30,000 troops, his 15,000 horses, and his 37 war elephants over the impassable Alps. Now think about that. Some of the highest mountains in the world, and he took 30,000 men, 15,000 horses, and 37 war elephants up and over the Alps. He marched directly into Italy and bypassed the Roman and Allied garrisons that were waiting to confront him before he ever got to Rome, and he was able to take the war directly to the Roman Republic. Nobody in Rome, nobody envisioned an army coming and invading from over the Alps. That was something in that day and age that was unthinkable. But it was a moment of effective leadership because it gained Hannibal a tactical advantage over his enemy. Now, another example of effective leadership is when Hannibal led his troops through a swampy and dangerous marsh to circumvent, again, Roman garrisons lying in wait. He knew if he continued to march on the course he would have run into a Roman garrison and they were waiting to ambush him. So Hannibal got this great idea. We'll simply go through the swamp. Now, several of his men got sick. Hannibal even lost an eye from infection as they traveled through the swamp. But here's what happened. He was able again to circumvent the Roman soldiers. He was able to get around the Roman soldiers and strategically set up an ambush at a place of his choosing. Now, the ensuing skirmish that followed, it's called the Battle of Trasimene. This battle resulted in a bloodbath for the Roman army, who lost over 15,000 soldiers in that one event. And the Roman leader that had been leading this garrison ended up being beheaded. Now, this lopsided military victory happened because of effective leadership. It's often referred to in military circles as the greatest ambush in history. Now, where leaders are effective in leadership, so are their teams. And you see that played out all throughout this book, Masters of Command, as you have the opportunity to read it. But here's the question for you and I: what does effective leadership look like? Well, effective leaders must answer 6 essential questions. It's what I call the 6 P's of effective leadership. Now, what are these questions? You're probably very familiar with the questions I'm going to pose, but maybe you haven't considered these simple questions, one-word questions, in this fashion before as it relates to effective leadership. Let me give them to you in the order I want to talk about them. Number 1, why? Number 2, what? Number 3, who? Number 4, when? Number 5, where? And number 6, how? Let me cover those again. Why, what, who, when, where, and how. The 6 key questions that we see asked about a variety of different things also apply to effective leadership. So let's start with the why. Now, the why of effective leadership is about understanding your purpose. Your purpose is the reason you're leading yourself and seeking to lead other people. It's your why that sets you apart as a leader. It's your why that inspires other people to follow your lead toward a specific goal, an objective, or an outcome. Simon Sinek talks about it in his book, Start With Why. And if you've not read it, like Masters of Command, it's another great read. Now, your why is what motivates you to take action and invite other people to join you in championing the cause that you choose to champion. Let me share with you somebody that really epitomizes the why of effective leadership. I met Maria Consuelo a few years ago at a conference in Orlando. To me, she epitomizes what it means to live the why of effective leadership. During a layover as a stewardess for a very elite airlines, she was significantly impacted by the unspeakable poverty that she witnessed in the country of Bangladesh. And it was in that moment, as she met some young girls that were struggling just for survival, that she vowed that she was going to make a difference by financing the education of these young lives. Now, fast forward to today, Maria holds 9 Guinness World Records, and she runs educational programs that have put over 600 children through school. Now, some have dubbed Maria the toughest human alive because of all the incredible feats of strength and endurance that she's put herself through, someone who is not an athlete per se. Now, the what of effective leadership is the second part. This refers to your plan to effectively lead. Now you know your why, your passion project. The what is your plan to make a difference or bring about a positive outcome in that area. It's a question you've got to answer. What is your why? And then what are you going to do to make a difference. Now, again, going back to Maria Consuela, Maria understood her why. Her what is raising the funds necessary to fulfill her promise to herself and initially to the young girls she met in Bangladesh. So, to raise awareness, what did she decide to do? She decided to do things no other woman had done. She trekked to the North Pole, she trekked to the South Pole, and she summited Mount Everest. In each one of those endeavors, doing that as a fundraiser to raise money for these girls that she wanted to champion their education. For the girl that didn't know how to swim, she taught herself to swim and took lessons to do so she could cross the English Channel. Now, 9 Guinness World Records later, she's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars so she can continue to help more and more children escape the chains of poverty and have an opportunity to live their best life ever. That, to me, epitomizes the what. Now, the who of effective leadership is about understanding the people you are called to lead. Your why is going to ultimately lead you to your who, the people who have similar values and have a passion for what drives and motivates you to make a difference. These people, as you invite them to join you on the journey, they become your team, your tribe, or your army. Now, Nelson Mandela's why led him to his who, other people like himself who were suffering under South Africa's segregation policies known as apartheid. After his release from prison, Mandela sought to unify a radically and politically divided country. And what ended up happening? He rallied hundreds of thousands of people to follow his lead. As a result of that, Nelson Mandela transformed South Africa, but he went on to not only take care of transcending what was going on in South Africa, he transcended his movement to become a global movement for justice and equality, which continues to this day. Nelson Mandela, to me, epitomizes the why, the what, the how of leadership. Now, the when of effective leadership speaks to how you're going to prioritize what is required to meet and achieve your why. Now, to me, this starts with strategic planning. You've got to establish both short-term and long-term goals to figure out how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And then you've got to prioritize those goals based upon what is required and the importance of doing them in a certain order. Once you've identified short-term and long-term goals, how to get from where you are to where you want to be, from there, it's defining those goals. It's then putting them in a sequence to follow and taking action. Once you begin to take action, what are you going to do? You're going to adapt, you're going to adjust, and you're going to tweak what you're doing, but you're going to keep moving forward, persisting until you succeed. Now, the where of effective leadership is the place where you lead. Understand this, effective leadership can take place anywhere. It can be in your home. It could be your place of employment. It could be within a volunteer organization. If you're a student, it could be at school. If you are working in your local community, it could be where you serve your local community, or it could be a larger audience. It could be statewide, regional, national, or international in scope. But understand this, the place where you lead, your where, often starts small, but it can expand to an even larger and larger and larger movement, potentially becoming a global phenomenon if enough people embrace your passion project. Now, 2 people I believe that really speak to the where are Mother Teresa and Nelson Mandela. They both started as a local movement for positive change in the lives of a handful of people. But because of their passion for what they did and the people that joined them and the attention that it drew to the plight that they were addressing, both of those individuals ended up making a global impact. Why? Because their why, their what, their who, and their when coalesced to bring about attention, and people fell in love with their passion and embraced it as their own, and all of a sudden, other people committed to also making a difference. Now, the how of effective leadership is the pattern of how you lead. Understand that everybody's style of leadership is different. The way I lead is different than the way you lead. Not one is better or worse than the other. It's just a different style of leadership. And the interesting thing that I like about that is everybody's leadership style is unique just as they are. There are some fundamental laws that govern effective leadership. Dr. John talks about those in his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, but how those leadership principles are lived out in your life are as different as you and I. In my book, Black Belt Leadership 101, I referenced earlier, in that book, I talk about the 10 essential character qualities you have to live out in your life to be a black belt leader in life. But how you live out and embrace and edify those 10 character qualities in your life is going to be different for each and every one of us. Now, your personality is also going to shape how you lead because as you lead other people, you're going to lead based upon your unique personality style. For some people, that will be attractive. For others, it's not. And you're going to have to be okay with that. Not everybody is going to join your movement. But understand, not only does your personality shape how you lead, it's going to shape how others perceive your leadership. Now, you and I, we all lead best when we're leading in our strength zone. So it's important for you and I to understand what our strengths are. So when we lead, we can focus on our strengths and lead in those areas and allow our energy and efforts to go where they can make the greatest impact. But you and I also need to be aware of our weaknesses because where we are weak, we need to be able to bring people alongside of us that are gifted in those areas so they can help us keep moving forward. At the same token, if we know we're weak in those areas, we've got to pay special attention to what we're doing if we're working in those areas, because that's where, as a leader, we can stumble. Now, again, my leadership style may be different than yours, and your style of leadership is going to be different than probably other people that you know. But here's what I'm here to tell you. We can all effectively lead if we make sure we've answered the 6 essential questions to effective leadership. Now, effective leaders are creative visionaries. They are gifted communicators who inspire others to follow them. Effective leaders are accountable to themselves, and they are accountable to others, and they are accountable to the cause that they have chosen to champion. Now, these effective leaders are decisive, and they're also confident in their decisions. Effective leaders are men and women of integrity who lead by example. They don't just say, do as I say, they say, do as I do, and they roll up their sleeves and they do it right alongside the people they're leading. Effective leaders are also empathetic. They care about their people as much as they care about their passion project. That's how we define effective leadership. But let me leave you with this. Effective leaders take the time to answer the 6 essential questions of effective leadership. And they not only answer them one time, they go back and revisit those questions often as they continue to lead. Why? The purpose question. What? The plan question. Who? The people question. When? The priority question. Where? The place question. And how? The pattern question. Know your purpose, formulate your plan, lead your people, prioritize their action, choose the place you'll lead from, and define your pattern of leadership. These are the 6 P's of effective leadership. I'm Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.